Okay, so here's the light strip after I applied my additional lighting, which is obviously all the stuff LED strip wise under the painter's tape. So I used 3M double-sided tape for the light strips. Found that it was not adhering well. I do have some experience with LED light strips, not necessarily with the execution of lights in this fashion, but I am used to dealing with these types of lights, in particular with a boat. So an aluminum hull, where I was trying to use double-sided tape with light strips very similar to this. They would not adhere. I used something that I thought was pretty cool. It is Gorilla Glue clear. I've used it before, haven't used it on plastic, but essentially underneath the light strips, well, basically on the double-sided tape, I applied some of the Gorilla Glue and taped it down just like I did with my boat years ago. And it's still on my boat, so I'm hopeful this will be a better solution. It's not that big of a deal. It cost me, I don't know, $6-7 for the glue. Probably that's all I'll use of this Gorilla Glue, but necessary tool to complete the job. But when these lights are on, it is definitely bright. The thinking is that I'm going to set the 2 lights up on a timer. So you have all of the lights that I've added, plus you have the strip light, which is the stock Fluval plant light. And I'm going to make the strip lights come on for a different interval, which is probably going to be somewhere around 6 hours. And the plant light will be on for a total of 10. So inside that 10-hour window, I'm going to have a 6-hour cycle just for my additional lights, which should kind of be a small time frame of explosive growth, but not so much that the tank is just out of control as far as the growth goes, because it will be a short cycle. But that's going to be when it's the coolest, the prettiest, the most entertaining to look at. So I'm looking forward to it. Got a lot more stuff coming. This is not a stock 15-gallon Fluval Flex build. I have customized all kinds of things with this. I'm going to try to include all of the things that I'm doing with some explanations. I'm not trying to say my view is the only way, just trying to say that my view from my experience has worked, and I want to share that and see if we can get other people to, if nothing else, do something similar to me and maybe achieve as good as or better results than what I'm trying to do. So I will let this dry and then come back and see what it looks like on the tank, maybe go into some of the other additions that I've made, and hopefully this week plan on getting the tank ready to the point where I can add some plants. Okay, so we're talking about the tank itself, and let's start off with the rear filter area. So don't know how well we can see here. I think this will work. Basically, this back wall separates the tank from the filter area. So water flows in here. With the stock tank, goes into an empty chamber and then comes over to, this is the Fluval filtration. So I'll probably stick the bio rings in there, keep the sponge. I'm not going to use the carbon filtration because carbon doesn't work well with planted tanks. It basically sucks out the nutrients that the plants need. So no carbon. And then you have the pump back box, which is basically this. It flows in there, hits the pump. And then I swapped out the spray head here for an Etsy aftermarket part that basically is going to have a flat stream of water come out of here. And the cool thing is I bought this other thing on Etsy, and I'll link to this. Essentially, this is a extreme filtration mod. So pretty sure the guy who I bought it from has a 3D printer, went through all of the design work in order to get it to fit perfectly into the box here, the first filtration box. If you can see, there's some blades that stick out. Don't know what that's for. But what I do know is that this is designed for those blades. So it's two pieces. The first piece, bottom piece, is pretty simple. I can stick some sponges and filter media in there. Probably not bio balls because they would just fall out, but I'm going to use some filter floss and different sponge materials to increase filtration. And essentially it just fits in here and slides all the way down. You can kind of see that blade that I was talking about. It's right here. So it fits perfectly around that, goes all the way to the bottom. And then this piece sits on top of it. And the cool thing about this piece is, pardon the camera work there, is I can cut things out, and I've actually got a couple of doors for this, where the doors will cover the media. Just fits into place after you put sponge material in there, bio balls, ammonia remover, whatever you want to put in there. No carbon, though, activated carbon, not for a planted tank. So if you're not doing a planted tank, put carbon in there, because it doesn't hurt to remove the minerals from water if you're not doing plants. But basically these individual compartments hold loose media for the most part. I'm probably going to use like bioball, ammonia tubes, or you know, the things that basically house bacterial on the media, which serves as your biological filter, which is the most important filter in the fish tank. So the biological bacteria that essentially eats the bad stuff is your biggest filtration, other than mechanical. Mechanical is important too. Mechanical keeps the water nice and clear. The other stuff though eats nitrites, ammonia, anything that's toxic to your inhabitants. So this box basically just fits with the basket parts to the back, and it just slides in here as well and sits on top of the bottom piece. So that's going to increase all of my filtration, and that's that part. So in addition, the stock tank comes with basically things that block these overflows. So I actually kind of hate the fact that there's a bottom intake. It's completely unnecessary. The top intake is the most important part. I wish that this top intake was higher, closer to the level of the spray bar here, so that way you could put as much water in there as maximum and still have some spillage into this back chamber. So I might just run it high so that the water is coming in over here. But I've also purchased these things which are not in yet, and they basically serve as sponges with holders that will attach over this. So if I put shrimp in there or wind up having really small fish, I don't have to worry about them getting sucked into the intakes. And that's mostly the modifications. If I have anything additional, then I'll cover it as a one-off from this point going forward. Thanks. Okay, in this section of the video, essentially what we're looking at is the pump with the return hose back to the tank. From there, on the inside of the tank, you have this NPT fitting, which basically screws through the bulkhead, and then the spray bar attaches to this round part. It just snaps into place. So the thinking here is that I'm going to take my diffuser, which is right here, and the barbs on it should fit into the hose, the housing of the hose. But I got to cut the hose down to the right length so that it's the perfect height to reach that bulkhead opening on the tank itself. So I'm gonna work on that, and then I'll create another section of the video that shows the result. Okay, so my diffuser, which is the center section, is in between the outlet and the power head, the pump. And the thinking is to use this as my reactor, basically for the carbon dioxide injection. So I bought this at Greenleaf Aquariums. I'll put a link in the description. The guy just produces outstanding products. So I have been a fan of his and a patron of his site because he just produces quality stuff. So this is the diffuser in line with my pump. So it'll basically mix with water that is in flow, and then hopefully be as dissolved as possible when it goes back into the water column of the tank. So I did test fit this, and it does fit. I'm probably gonna go ahead and attach some silicone tubing, which I also bought from Greenleaf Aquariums. You wanna use silicone tubing because it's carbon dioxide proof. Carbon dioxide can corrode other types of plastics and things like that. So always make sure that you use silicone or CO2 safe tubing. One of the things that I hate the most about this tank is the intakes. They're too big. The intake covers that Fluval provides are too coarse. Things will get through them, including baby shrimp. And I really don't want to have a huge colony of baby shrimp in the back of the tank. So there's a seller on eBay, and I will provide a link for this, who I'm pretty sure has a 3D printer and basically prints out intakes based on the specs of this aquarium. So this is the lower one, and this is the higher one. Obviously they're two different sizes. It's not gonna look pretty, but it's gonna be functional. I'm not gonna have to worry about shrimp getting into this. They should be able to fight the flow. I'm actually probably gonna run it with more water than it probably should have. I'm not going to fill it all the way up necessarily, but I am probably going to fill it to, I'm thinking maybe halfway up that filter intake. So I don't want the flow to be extreme, and I really want the pump to do the work. So, you know, the thinking is to not run it too shallow and have a lot of aerated water in the filter system and the tank itself. So in order to achieve that, I got to get the water level closer to the spray bar here. So we'll see how that goes. I'm still a ways away from that, but when we're at that point, then we'll see how it goes. Okay, this is the filter. I think this is primarily, other than the filter that comes with the aquarium, you know, it's real basic. It's just the spongy, coarse filter material. So with this though, right next to the intakes, my thinking is to use something that's coarser that picks up more granular particles and use that here in this chamber because water's going to flow in through the top here, and then it's going to want to exit there, but that side of the tank's going to be full, so there might be a little bit of water flow, but it's going to be through here to the bottom or through here across the top where it goes to the next chamber. So this is like a medium loose like filter cloth. Buy it at PetSmart. All of these filter products I bought at PetSmart. Then it's going to come through that chamber, hit the bio balls basically. It's called Fluval Biomax. These things are just ceramic rings that the bacteria like to grow on, so you really don't ever have to change these out. You put them in one time for an aquarium and that's it. You could change out filter material. Usually I only do that if it gets completely saturated. If I do filter maintenance, then I'll take these pieces out and wash them, and if something's just too far gone, then I'll replace it with new material. And basically for the spongy stuff, I bought, it's actually a block of sponge made for a specific model of filter. I was just like, I just need the biggest one, and then I'll use that to fill up these compartment boxes as I need to. Same thing with the bulk media, that blue that you see in the center. The other side of it's white. This is a little bit finer of a filter media. And then I bought a box of Quick Clear, which is filter floss. So filter floss is extremely fine. The smallest of particles generally get stuck in it, and that is going to be essentially where the clean water goes to the next chamber where the Fluval stock stuff is, which is basically just a big sponge and some more of the Biomax bio balls that the bacteria. So the most important thing with any aquarium is your biological filter. So you don't want to clean out your filter media constantly because you will be destroying good bacteria. It's almost like taking an antibiotic for a person. You're killing off that good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria, which can cause problems with like your digestive tract. So same thing with the filter. Your digestive tract is the good bacteria, your biofilter, and that's why they call these Biomax balls. But it lives in the sponges and the different filter media as well. In a planted tank, it's usually pretty easy because you have a lot of biomatter in the tank. I'm not going to have a heavy fish load at all. I plan on actually keeping it very light. I really want the main focus to be plants and then one centerpiece fish species. So that's how I did my filter, and I've got my carbon dioxide hooked up. I've already talked about, well, I haven't hooked it up to the regulator, but it is hooked up to my diffuser, which is connected to the pump, and I reconnected my spray bar, so that's all good to go. The reason why I'm doing all this is because I'm getting ready to put substrate in the tank and then the hardscape, and then I've got a few pieces to wait on, and it should get rolling here hopefully at the end of the week. There is one more thing. I kind of went over this. So these are intake covers. So this is the smaller one for the lower, and they actually snap in there really nice. The reason I don't have it in there though is because I was doing the filter and getting that ready so that I can pop it in. I have to take some Biomax out of the center chamber. And it's tight. There we go. And then piece. Now this one's ready to go into the tank. I'm not going to do anything on the bottom section because basically water just runs in there, so it'll be partially clean. It's really not going to be doing anything filter wise. I probably could, but there's no flow between the sections here, so I can't fill it with media and expect it to do anything. It's just all closed off. It's really just to get the filter up high enough, I think, to where it's more effective. So that's in there. Goes all the way to the bottom. Then just fits on top. None of the doors opened, so it's all nice and sealed without stuff falling apart. And then my intake covers are going to go over this. And this is the top intake cover. And get it to snap into place. It's a pretty good fit. And there we go. So probably want to have the water when it's pumping come up to maybe halfway. That should be good, because if it drops too much, then you can't drop any more than this intake cover, because that could be a problem. But we'll see. I'm thinking at least halfway, maybe 3/4, just below the spray bar. So the spray bar should have a nice flow of water out of it that doesn't cause too much gas interaction with the atmosphere. Really want that carbon dioxide to be able to get into the tank efficiently, which I think it will. I think this will be a good setup. Okay, so the lights are on, the hood is on, all of the lights. So this is going to be, like I said, pretty high light tank. I kind of placed the Dragonstone in the middle. That might change a little bit. I have some ideas that I want to try, and I'm not sure it's oriented properly. The 9-liter bag of Amazonia was more than enough to cover the tank with a pretty significant depth. So might actually pull a little bit out. I do like the plants being able to have a really good root system, but that might be a little bit excessive. I probably can cut it back by maybe 20%. So if that's the case, I'll just get a solo cup and remove the rock and cup it out until it's the right depth. But that's basically it. I think it's gonna look somewhat decent. Maybe should have went a little bit higher on the Dragonstone, but if need be, then I'll give it some thought after I add plants. But before I add fish, I'll increase the Dragonstone, change it, do something additional. I don't know, but I'll do all that before any fish are added. So that's it.